All right, everybody. It is about 12:45 p.m. West Coast time on Sunday, November 9th. I haven't done one of these news wrap-ups for a while, and I've got 45 minutes to kill until the San Francisco 49ers start their game this afternoon. So I'm Hawk. I'm your host. We're going to do a news wrap-up. I'm just going to run through a whole bunch of news stories for 30 or 40 minutes. Ones that I haven't had time to get to, or I haven't seen a lot of folks cover. Donald Trump is trying to get Adam Schiff indicted the same way he's gotten former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James indicted. Adam Schiff was part of the January 6th committee. He was integral in both of Donald Trump's impeachments, and he just hates him. He absolutely hates Adam Schiff, calls him Shifty Schiff. So if Adam Schiff were to get indicted, what impact would that have on the Senate? Reading from Politico, President Donald Trump's retribution campaign against his political adversaries could soon hit the Senate, and lawmakers are already bracing for impact. It would be interesting, put it this way. Last year, or the year before, New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat, was indicted in a massively corrupt and very ham-fisted bribery scheme where he was hoarding gold bars and cash at his house. That was legitimate crimes. He was put on trial. He was convicted, and I think he's in prison now. An indictment against Adam Schiff would not be that. It just would not be that. It's trumped up, it's bullshit, and is selective, vindictive prosecution. So we'll see what happens, man. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned that air travel delays and cancellations will only spread across the country as the country barrels into a third day of government-mandated flight cuts today, Sunday night, November 9th. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the following earlier today: "It's only going to get worse. I look to the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. You're going to see air travel be reduced to a trickle." And I'm already seeing people's TikToks from airports. I just saw a TikTok before I came on here from a woman who boarded her plane at the airport. The plane left the gate. It's in line on the tarmac to take off, and the flight got canceled. They were waiting in line to take off, and the flight got canceled, and they had to go back to the gate, and everybody had to get off the plane. So, and this is a problem that's not going to go away once a government funding deal is reached, because air traffic controllers have been quitting by the hundreds. And that's going to outlast any deal that Chuck Schumer and John Thune come up with. Donald Trump, Jesus Christ. Donald Trump is claiming that every American is going to get a $2,000 tariff dividend right after we get our Doge checks. So, you remember the Doge checks? You remember all the redneck MAGA chuds who were talking about what they were going to do with their $5,000 Doge check? They were going to go out and buy new pickup trucks. Donald Trump is now saying, he put up a Truth Social post earlier today, making fun of people who oppose tariffs, and said that a dividend of at least $2,000 a person will be paid to everyone in the United States, not including high-income people. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that Donald Trump's suggestion that Americans may receive a tariff dividend of at least $2,000 could come via the tax cut legislation they passed earlier this year. Yeah, whatever, man. Okay, this is amazing. So Donald Trump said we're not funding SNAP benefits or food stamps. A bunch of states took him to court. He lost. There was an order on Thursday that he fully funds SNAP benefits by Friday. Friday, the Supreme Court stepped in and put a pause on that lower court ruling because Donald Trump asked the Supreme Court to give him an order that would relieve him of the obligation to feed 42 million Americans, including 14 million children. Some states already started the process of fulfilling people's SNAP benefits. And today, according to the New York Times, the Trump administration told those states that they must immediately undo any actions to provide full food stamp benefits to low-income families in a move that added to the chaos and uncertainty surrounding the nation's largest anti-hunger program during the government shutdown. So the President of the United States and his administration are fighting to take food away from 42 million Americans, including 14 million children, because Democrats won't let Republicans take health care away from 20 million Americans. That's where we're at. I'm reading kind of competing headlines here. Democrats are digging in on health care demands, according to NBC News. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said Sunday that Democrats would not be willing to compromise on their demands to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year. But I'm looking over here. I like those little 3D glasses. Okay. Mediaite.com is reporting breaking news: deal reportedly within reach to end the government shutdown. A deal is within reach, according to a new report from Axios. The Axios report, citing sources from both parties, said that Senate Democrats are prepared to advance a package of bills to bring an end to the standoff. The procedural motion, which would set up votes on these bills, is expected to be supported by at least 10 Senate Democrats. Oh, great. I wonder if it's going to be the 10 Senate Democrats led by Chuck Schumer, who caved last time in March. If Schumer caves on this one, the way he caved on the last one, I really don't know that he's going to last as leader of the Senate minority. Anyway, we'll see what happens. God, Trump loyalists are pushing a grand conspiracy. That's the deep state. So Judge Boxawine Jeanine Pirro has been having difficulties getting people indicted in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles. And the sandwich guy was just acquitted a couple of days ago on misdemeanor assault charges. And the Trump administration is having difficulty with courts all over the place. So they are going to go to southern Florida, I guess in hopes that they're going to get Judge Aileen Cannon assigned to a case, because far-right influencers have been hinting in recent weeks that they have finally found a venue, Miami, and a federal prosecutor, Jason Redding Quinones, to pursue long-promised charges of the deep state conspiracy, a grand conspiracy against President Trump's adversaries. Their theory of the case, which is completely unsupported by any evidence and is actually disproved by multiple investigations, bipartisan investigations that have already taken place, is that a cabal of Democrats and deep state operatives, possibly led by former President Barack Obama, has worked to destroy Mr. Trump in a years-long plot spanning the inquiry into his 2016 campaign to the charges he faced after leaving office. There are people who voted for Donald Trump who think all of that was fake and manufactured, because Trump supporters are stupid and gullible and easily manipulative. But that narrative, which has been promoted in general terms by Mr. Trump and has taken root online, has emerged in a small but widening federal investigation. So that's going to be a fucking joke, man. That's going to fall flat on its face, just like the prosecutions of James Comey, Letitia James, and Jack Smith. Presumably, Jack Smith would be a part of this case, the deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump. So Jack Smith, I can't remember if he's been indicted or if he's about to be indicted. Uh, yeah. No, I don't think he's been indicted yet. Sorry, I took a week off and I'm a little behind on stuff. Um, but Trump wants Jack Smith indicted, which would be the stupidest thing that Donald Trump could do, because that would give Jack Smith the opportunity to put on his case in court against Donald Trump as his defense. A case that he was not able to put on in court against Donald Trump in a criminal proceeding because the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump immunity. Let's see, that story's moot now. Americans see a government that is not working. Hey, no shit. Americans see 435 members of the House and 100 members of the Senate who aren't working, but who are still getting paid full time while the Senate's still in session. The House has been out of session for almost 8 weeks because Mike Johnson doesn't want to have a vote on the Jeffrey Epstein discharge petition. So, good God-fearing Christian man Mike Johnson is still covering up for pedophiles and their co-conspirators, like any good Christian man would, I guess. Let's see, there were a couple over here that I wanted to talk about. Okay. Here's something. Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, raves in prison emails about the comfort of her new facility. Remember, Donald Trump had her transferred from a maximum security facility in Florida to a minimum security facility in Texas, I believe. Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, raved in prison emails obtained by NBC News about feeling like Alice in Wonderland due to the comfort of the minimum security facility she was moved to after interviewing with Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General at the DOJ and Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney. Ghislaine Maxwell, 63, was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors, was initially incarcerated at a federal facility in Tallahassee, Florida, that NBC News on Saturday described as a more restrictive than a camp, where inmates have access to work programs, recreation, da 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 da. So she went from maximum security to minimum security. In prison emails sent to the House Judiciary Committee and later obtained by NBC News. Who is she emailing at the House Judiciary Committee? I'm curious about that. She wrote, "My situation is improved by being at this new facility." It's called Bryan, Bryan, FPC Bryan. Another email read, "The institution is run in an orderly fashion, which makes for a safer, more comfortable environment. All people concerned, inmates and guards alike. The kitchen is clean too. No possums falling from the ceiling to fry, unfortunately, on the ovens and become mingled with the food being served." Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell praised the prison camp warden as a true professional, adding, "I feel like I have dropped through Alice in Wonderland's looking glass. I am much happier here and, more importantly, safe." Because if we've learned anything from Donald Trump's administration and Republicans in the House and the Senate, is that they will absolutely go out of their way to make sure that convicted child sex traffickers feel safe and comfortable. Yes, we wouldn't want convicted child sex traffickers to feel uncomfortable or unsafe. And so Donald Trump and his administration and Mike Johnson are really going above and beyond to make sure that convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell feels protected and safe. Great. The fallout from last Tuesday's election day continues. New York Governor Kathy Hochul spent the week celebrating Zoran Mamdani's historic victory for mayor of New York City. Then on Saturday, she made clear how far she's willing to go with his progressive agenda. Turns out, not very far at all. The governor praised the Democratic Socialist who's lighting politics on fire, but that didn't stop her from opposing almost all of his plans. She also said she'll keep an eye on how Mamdani leads New York's Jewish community. Well, fortunately, Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League has instituted a surveillance program on Zoran Mamdani called the Mamdani Monitor. Yeah, the Anti-Defamation League is going to keep him under surveillance. I guess lest he go out in the streets and start attacking Jewish people or something. Fucking lunatics, man. John Thune has pledged to keep the Senate in session every day until they find a way to reopen the government, making multiple senators in both parties cranky. Donald Trump has proposed a compromise on health insurance payments, calling on Republicans to send federal payments that would go to insurers, the subsidies, under the Affordable Care Act, that the government should send that money directly to Americans to bring an end to the government shutdown. That seems like a great idea. A Washington Post analysis of multiple video feeds found that President Trump spent nearly 20 minutes apparently battling to keep his eyes open at a Thursday event in the Oval Office. The one where that other guy passed out, fell down, hit the floor, and then Donald Trump just stood there looking like a potato. He was barely able to stay awake during that meeting. It was a seemingly stark illustration of the strain of the presidency on a 79-year-old who typically keeps a vigorous travel schedule that even his aides say they struggle to keep up with, and who has previously reveled in calling his predecessor Sleepy Joe Biden. Donald Trump's body physically is failing him. Physically, his body is failing. And that process is going to continue. I personally will be surprised if he is still alive at the end of his term. Let's see. That's a stupid story that I didn't like. I did a separate TikTok about this yesterday, but I'll recap a couple things. President Donald Trump is demanding that the Washington Commanders, the DC NFL team, name their planned $3.7 billion stadium after him. A senior White House source said there have been back-channel communications with a member of the Washington Commanders ownership group, led by Josh Harris, to express Donald Trump's desire to have the domed stadium in the nation's capital bear his name. The new stadium is being built on the old RFK Stadium site that served as the team's home from 1961 to 1996. So I did a TikTok on this yesterday where I came up with a list of 10 possible names. I had 3 favorites from that list. One is Pervert Hoover Coliseum. The next one is Mushroom Dick Football Park. I like that one a lot. It has kind of a rhythm to it. And then last was kind of a 2-part. I said that the team, the Washington Commanders, should change their name to the Washington Insurrectionists. And then you could name the stadium the Capitol. And anytime that there's an NFL game there could simply be large vats of poop throughout the stadium so that if the DC insurrectionists lost, the crowd, as they're leaving the stadium, could just scoop up some poop and smear it on the walls like Donald Trump's insurrectionist supporters did at the actual Capitol. So we'll see if they pick up on any of my ideas. Donald Trump is still demanding that Republicans in the Senate kill the filibuster as a strategy to end the shutdown. And that's not... Donald Trump doesn't give a shit if the government reopens or not. He doesn't care. He does not care at all. What he does care about is Republicans doing away with the filibuster so that they can pass a bunch of voter suppression laws that would either prevent Democrats from voting in the midterms, make it easier to scrub Democrats from voter rolls, make it easier to throw out ballots that had already been cast by Democrats, essentially cheating via legislation, which, if Republicans did away with the filibuster, presumably they would be able to pass. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't care about anybody but Donald Trump, being very short-sighted, because, the second the Democrats retake control of the government, White House, House, and Senate, Puerto Rico becomes a state, Washington, D.C. becomes a state. I'm sure there will be some reforms for the U.S. Supreme Court will be passed, and Democrats will be able to do that stuff with 51 votes, and Democrats will get 4 more senators, and more Democratic members of the House from D.C. and from Puerto Rico. But, whatever. Donald Trump doesn't care about that stuff. This is an interesting story that's being reported on the website The Blaze, which I'm going to read it to you, but The Blaze is Glenn Beck's website, so not exactly the New York Times or the Washington Post. But they are reporting the following. They are claiming that a suspect who allegedly planted pipe bombs near the Democratic and Republican Party headquarters on January 6th is likely a former Capitol police officer who now works for the CIA. They further reported that this person's home appears to be under the watch of law enforcement officers since this past Friday. If that's true, it seems like they've identified a suspect. So on the shutdown deal, I talked about this a few minutes ago, but I'm seeing some questions about it in the comments. So I'm looking at Mediaite.com. They're reporting within the last hour or so that a deal is reportedly within reach to end the government shutdown. No details, but it's a series of votes on procedural bills that is expected to be supported by at least 10 Senate Democrats. And, the last time this happened in March, Chuck Schumer led a group of 10 Senate Democrats who caved and funded the government and got literally nothing in return for doing that. And you'll remember that I think it must have been like the Easter break. They were going out of town for 2 or 3 weeks because after that, Chuck Schumer had a book coming out and he was going on a book tour, and he got such ferocious backlash from his own Democratic base for having caved and funded the government and cooperated with Republicans, getting literally nothing in return, that he had to cancel his book tour. And I know that to be true because my brother and I had tickets to go see him on his book tour here in Northern California, where we were going to go yell at him. But that event was canceled. So the reporting that I'm seeing is very lean on details, but the part where it says this is expected to be supported by at least 10 Senate Democrats, that doesn't make me feel good, because that makes me feel like Chuck Schumer and people like Chris Coons and Kirsten Gillibrand are getting ready to do the exact same thing that they did last time, which is sell out every single one of us, for decorum or something. And it's just like, Chuck Schumer thinks it's 1993, man, and that tactics that worked and strategy that worked 30 years ago still works today. And it just fucking doesn't, man. It just doesn't. It's like one side is just not playing by the rules. And, fuck it. It's so frustrating, man. It's so incredibly frustrating. So incredibly frustrating. New York Representative and Trump taint sniffer, Elise Stefanik, is going to challenge New York Governor Gary Hochul in next year's elections. She wants to be governor of New York. That would be a hoot. And she's gonna campaign for governor for the entire state of New York by targeting Zoran Mamdani and trying to tie New York Governor Kathy Hochul to Zoran Mamdani. So it's the typical racist, bigoted, Islamophobic, clickbait, rage bait bullshit. But, you know, whatever. Who cares? I live in California. It doesn't really matter to me that much who the governor of New York is, except for when it comes to congressional elections and presidential elections and challenging them, you know, like counting actual ballots. The Trump organization's second-term push to monetize Donald Trump's presidency has reached the aisles of military exchanges, grocery stores on military bases, as Coast Guard-run stores, which provide service members and their families with access to tax-free consumer goods, are now stocking Trump-branded wine and cider. Trump wine. It's toilet wine that he learned how to make in prison with fermented fruit. Trump toilet wine, now available at the Coast Guard MX near you. Donald Trump has taken a wrecking ball to democracy, according to Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Hope you're well, I guess. Let's see what else we got here. That's a dumb story. That's a dumb story. That's a dumb story. Well, Donald Trump did go off and say, again, you know, why he wants Senate Republicans to end the filibuster. He rattled off a list of GOP policies that would benefit from eliminating the filibuster on Friday, including the assertion that Republicans would never lose another election if the Senate abolished the filibuster and passed all the legislation he wants them to pass. The president listed banning mail-in voting, ending cash bail, and changing voter ID laws as some of the legislation the GOP could pass through Congress with a simple majority vote. He wants to get rid of voting machines, too. The Heritage Foundation is having a very challenging time right now. They're a Republican think tank that's been around for like 60 or 70 years. And they're the ones that gave us Project 2025. Lately, they've been very closely allied with Tucker Carlson. And then last weekend or the weekend before, Tucker Carlson had avowed white supremacist, white Christian nationalist, neo-Nazi, racist, anti-Semite Nick Fuentes on for a fawning 2-hour-long interview full of puff piece questions. And then Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation, didn't just put out a statement, could have just remained quiet, or could have just put out a statement saying something benign, but instead he put out a video of himself talking about how much he loves Tucker Carlson and we stand by Tucker Carlson and we are free speech absolutists and all of that shit. And that has caused some serious problems within the Heritage Foundation among some of their staffers and things like that. And so people are kind of revolting. The Heritage Foundation is no ordinary think tank. I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal. Since the days of Ronald Reagan, it has been the conservative movement on the march, delivering ready-made policies and battle-hardened pundits to Republican presidents. Heritage spoke proudly with one voice, yada, yada, yada. Today, that almost military discipline has collapsed, and many current and former staffers blame Kevin Roberts, who took over as the foundation's president in 2021. They joke that the group's operating principle is now more of a one-man policy, with Roberts moving aggressively to align their think tank with the MAGA movement. As Democrats revel in their electoral success this week, the divisions at Heritage highlight the growing fractures facing President Trump's winning 2024 coalition. Yada, yada, yada. That one I've already talked about. So we'll do a couple more here, and then I'm going to go get ready for football. Donald Trump dismisses affordability concerns. First, it's like, that's why he lost. That's one of the main reasons why every Republican lost last Tuesday night. Is because a lot of Democrats like Zohran Mamdani and Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger were campaigning on issues related to affordability. So this is also Wall Street Journal. Republicans in Washington came away from the recent elections with a clear takeaway. Focus on the high cost of living or risk huge losses in next year's midterms. Inflation's up, grocery prices are up, utility prices, electric bills are up. Everything is more expensive because of, in large part, because of Donald Trump's tariffs. But Donald Trump is not convinced. The president said this past week that Republicans aren't talking enough about his administration's success, and he dismissed questions on voters' concerns regarding the economy. Most prices are on the downswing, he argued. He said the following: our energy costs are way down. Our groceries are way down. Everything is way down, and the press doesn't report it. So I don't want to hear about affordability, because right now we're much less. You're going to see and hear that quote in many, many, many campaign ads next August, September, and October. Okay, it's a little past 1:15 p.m. West Coast time on Sunday, November 9th. I am going to go watch football. Thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. And please go to my YouTube page and subscribe to my YouTube page. You can find it by going to YouTube and just typing Hawk Podcasts in the search bar, Hawk Podcasts in the search bar, and that'll take you right to my YouTube page. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody, and go 49ers. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great week.